Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming along today on this lovely, glorious day here in the great British city of Glasgow. We've got people who have come from as far as Aberdeenshire, and we've got people who have come up from the borders. So thank you to you all for this. Now, folks, we're here today to celebrate a birthday, a political birthday. For it was on this day, on the 1st of May in 1707, 314 years ago today, that a country was born, which would become a giant among nations. A country was born whose name would become great. A nation which would stand for hope and for liberty and for peace and for prosperity throughout the world. So happy birthday, Great Britain. Indeed, it was on this day, on the 1st of May in 1707, that the Treaty of Union came into effect, which joined the parliaments of Scotland and England together. And to quote from the treaty, that the two kingdoms of Scotland and England shall, upon the 1st day of May and forever after, be united into one kingdom by the name of Great Britain. So we're here to celebrate that great British Union, to give thanks for it, to give thanks for all it has done for our people, and as always, to give our positive message of solidarity and unity. To say that we are Scottish and British, we love the United Kingdom, and we will stay together. So what happened in 1707, just to briefly say, a new nation was born. Because even today, the people on the other side of the square will deliberately misunderstand what happened. What happened was that two sovereign nations entered into a treaty together, which did not require either to change its culture or its religious ways or its laws, but which did require each to give up their own parliament. So Scotland and England joined together, and together they birthed as parents new life. A new nation was created. The Union created a new nation called Great Britain, which would enable everyone to enjoy a wider identity and to share in the society and the culture and the ways of each other, whether they were in Scotland or in the rest of this island. People from Scotland would come to understand England as now part of their country too, and people from England would come to understand Scotland as part of their country too, united under one country called Great Britain. And that really widened up everybody's sense of identity, sense of society, and sense of culture, and artistic creation, and of course, economic opportunity. Now, understood in this way, understood as a new nation being created, we understand the severity of what the people at the other side of the square are trying to do. Because they're not just trying to remove Scotland from England, they are trying to destroy Great Britain. Because Great Britain is the creation of the kingdoms of Scotland and England together. So that's the true import of what's going on. And that's why the British Parliament, whatever one may think of the people who are in it, that's why the British Parliament has the final say. Because this is about Britain. It's not just about Scotland. And you know, another thing that the people at the other end of the square believe is they don't want to believe that there were good reasons, for the Union, that there were good economic and cultural and other reasons for the Union. So they pretend that people were bribed to accept the Union. Well, that's simply not true, because at the time there were 227 parliamentarians in Scotland, and only 30 of them received any money, and every single one of them was owed that money anyway for their salaries and for their pensions. And of that money, one person received 3/5 of it. And the remainder, some of them voted for the union, some of them voted against, and some of them didn't even have a vote. So the idea that the union was somehow born in sin, somehow born in bribery, is just complete nonsense. The truth is, there were very good reasons for the union at the time. And you know, it was Queen Anne who summed it up at the time. And she said in a letter to the Scottish Parliament a year before the union, she goes, "An entire and perfect union will be the solid foundation of lasting peace. It will secure your religion, your liberty, and your property. And it will remove the animosities amongst yourselves and between our two nations. It will increase our strength and our riches and our trade, and by this union the whole island will be joined in affection and free from all different interests. We will be enabled to resist all of our enemies." And that is indeed what came to pass. And many in Scotland saw the obvious economic benefits of access to the huge market in the rest of these islands, as well as to what was then some of England's colonies. As far as the defence of Scotland was concerned, militarily there was the correct belief that what was then the English Navy would be able to defend Scotland from its continental enemies. And once again, that also came to pass very shortly thereafter. And of course, there was also the desire back in the day and age when your religion was your politics to keep out the young pretender James the Eighth, who was in France. And there was the desire to ensure the succession of the House of Hanover when Queen Anne died. And that is in fact what came to happen. The monarchy passed to George I, and this square that we are standing in is in fact named after George III. And that street there is North Hanover Street, after the House of Hanover. And the street over in the corner there is Frederick Street, named after the father of George III. And of course, Britain had already been regally united for 100 years, because the Scottish King James VI, who created that wonderful flag up there, the Union Jack, James VI had united the crowns of Scotland and England back 100 years earlier in 1603. And so there was throughout Great Britain at the time, there was a sense of developing British identity anyway, because of what we had been experiencing together under that shared monarchy. So what that is saying is there were people in the Parliament as well who voted because, like us, they saw themselves as Scottish and British. Indeed, one of the parliamentarians at the time, the Earl of Cromarty, he said, "Nothing will alter me from being a Scotsman and a Briton, and for the Union." Right back in 1707, there was the Scottish and British identity developing and getting stronger. And for these reasons, people were voting for the Union. So folks, in that sense, we can say that the Union of 1707 was one of our other great Scottish inventions, because since the Union of 1603, the Union of the Crowns, Scots politicians had been urging for union, political union, ever since. James VI did it in 1604 and again in 1614, and then Scottish politicians wanted union in 1688 and 1689 and also in 1702. So we can say that the union that eventually came about in 1707 was another great Scottish invention. And I'll conclude here by quoting a Sunday Telegraph journalist, Daniel Hannon. A couple of weeks ago, he summed it up. And you could be talking about some of the people on the other side of the square there. He says Scotland's past is far nobler than the Alba myth, the Alba Braveheart myth. We were a small nation at the edge of the world, and we bred an enterprising and inventive people. Seeking an outlet for our genius, we joined the kindred nation to our south, a nation to which we were already bounded by blood and speech and faith. And in doing so, we created a new nation, the most powerful and influential humanity has known, which used its strength to spread parliamentary rule, private property, free inquiry, limited government, and personal liberty. And isn't that the most inspiring story of all? So it was on this day, 314 years ago, that a great national mission was begun. And now on this day, 1st of May 2021, it is a good day to repeat and rededicate ourselves to those fine words of the Treaty of Union that brought us together. Quote, that the two kingdoms of Scotland and England shall, upon the 1st day of May and forever after, be united into one kingdom by the name Great Britain. So happy birthday, Great Britain. 314 years young. The best is yet to come. Thank you.